Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Tanja and I am here to answer the question of how the hell am I finding my flow in pole dance? I got asked this question by one of you guys and she was like, how do I find my flow? I struggle with it. I have no idea how to continue. So this is my objective for today's video, to give you 10 incentives and tips and tricks that you can put into your pole journey, into your practice, and go ahead and find your very own flow. So let's get started. Here are 10 things that I want to bring to you so that you can start to better or differentiate your pole journey. So tip number 1 that I want you to know is that yes, you can go ahead and learn all the new tricks, but don't get too hung up on needing to bring them into your freestyle, into your flow, into your choreography straight away. Because here's the thing, you are only going to be good and great at something once you've tried it hundreds, thousands, maybe 10,000s of times, yeah? So if you learn a skill, for example, invert, whatever, you will be focusing on how to getting this invert, always worrying about, do I have enough muscle strength? Where do my hands go? Is it right hand or left hand on top? What do my feet do? Are my feet pointed? Are my legs straight? And all of that stuff. After you've done this again and again and again, and you build up strength, you build up confidence, you build up knowledge, this movement did not only stay in this realm of can I do this, but it actually got integrated. You formed this mind-muscle connection where then you can do it without even thinking about it. Yeah, just remember what you did or what it felt like once you first started pole. You learned your very own trick, and now this first trick that you learned, maybe it was dip spin, pirouette spin, something like that, and now you don't even think about it, right? It's become more or less like a filler in your flow, in your freestyle, hasn't it? So that's what we want to do. You want to start and focus on the more basic tricks for you that are more easy to you and flow with that, because you don't have to think about it. All the other tricks are extra, and you want to keep practicing those so they become integrated and normal and simple and easy and flowy, right? So don't expect new tricks that you learn to be flowy and integrated into your practice straight away. Instead, see it as a total different practice. See it as, I want to build up my skill. I want to fill my box of skills instead of needing to have them being perfect and flowy. So focus on the basic stuff, and new tricks is a whole different dimension. Tip number 2, which is very important nowadays, is don't try to be someone else or become someone else or copy someone else. I know there is so many opportunities for us to literally get distracted and trying out stuff and putting them on our bodies, and it's not even for us. It is great at first to really try out and find your style and see what you like and what you don't like. But with social media and YouTube around, there might be things that come easy to me, come easy to other people, look amazing on other people's body, but then you try it out and you find yourself kind of stuck with it, right? So instead of trying to copy and emulate somebody else's movement, somebody else's trick, somebody else's flow, somebody else's way of, flicking their hair, moving their hand, whatever, be with you, right? So the way I did it, let's take photography, for example. I started when I was really, really new to it and didn't have basically any clue whatsoever. I took pictures from the internet and I tried to recreate those with the lighting, right? To really figure out, how did they create this sort of lighting? How did they create this sort of shot? What were the settings they had to put the camera onto? And that is how I learned. Now, were those images my style? No, but I learned. I learned what I liked and I learned what I didn't like. So with time, I did more of the things that I really liked and less of the things that other people did. And you can do the same thing with pole, right? You are going to classes, obviously you're copying your teacher, which is completely normal because you're learning. You're in this process of becoming better, of building your skill set. But then as time goes on, really look at yourself, feel into yourself, and come up with things, with movements, with tricks that you like, that are not from somebody else, that is not somebody else's style, that you feel like, oh, I have to look like those, but that feels right for you. So a great way to do this is to film yourself. Film yourself, even if you feel like, oh, it's not worth it, it looks terrible, whatever, film yourself. And sooner or later, you will see movements, you will see styles, you will see poses, you will see fillers, you will see climbs that you like. And then simply do more of those, because that is going to be your style, that's going to be your flow, instead of somebody else's flow from out there. Tip number 3, instead of focusing so much on every single trick and trying to bring a lot of different and new and spacey and I don't know what tricks into your flow, into your combo or choreography, focus on different ins and outs, because it's not the tricks that you do on your pole that are going to make it interesting and flowy, but it's going to be the ins and the outs, so the transition. And for every trick, for every pose, there are multiple ways of entering or exiting or bringing one shape to another shape. And that is what will make your flow look flowy, instead of going from one trick, holding it, and then quickly going into another trick. It's really about how can I connect the dots here. Right? So instead of, let's say, a very simple movement going from here to here, you can connect the poses, connect the dots. So you're going from this side, and you can add some fillers with your hands, and all of a sudden, whoop, you did end up here. How did that happen? Didn't even notice, right? So that's how you want to see it with pole as well. Instead of going from like, oh my God, trick 1, trick 2, trick 3, it's becoming one. It's like this little, this blob that is just merging, and it's dancing. That's what's making it dancey, right? To not have pose after pose after pose, but to have a movement that just flows into another movement, that flows into another movement. So learning how to get out of a pose and into a pose, and different ways to really do this is going to be key here. Tip number 4 is that you want to make your movements big. Instead of keeping everything with yourself and again trying to rush from one pose to another pose, you actually want to play with the space that you're taking up. It can be small at one moment, and then basically soaking up the room, right? Showing yourself, showing that you're there, showing that you have this confidence to actually dancing it out, instead of just like, whew, that was a spin, right? So make your movements big, dance it out, show yourself, because you are this amazing and confident dancer, aren't you? So show it. And even if you don't feel like it, take up the space, let your body basically lead the space, and your confidence will come after it. That's a proven thing. It's called embodiment. If you show up, your nervous system is basically rewiring so that you actually feel the part. You start to feel the way your body is expressing itself. So try that out. Number 5, which basically ties in perfectly with number 4, is that you want to start to slow down your movements. Instead of rushing, it's the same thing over and over again, right? Instead of rushing from one trick to the other trick, you actually want to start to enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey. It's not like a choreography or flow or freestyle is not something that you want to just get over with quickly. but it's literally something that you get to enjoy. The journey from trick 1 to trick 2 is what is going to create this flowiness, is what is going to create this like beautiful thing to look at, where you don't even know how you came from the first trick to the second trick to the third trick, because everything is just one and is this amazing flow. Again, you taking up the space, you dictating the flow of your dance, the flow of where things are going, right? So again, with the first point, you want to focus on the things that come naturally to you, that are already so integrated with your body, that then it's so easy for you to connect the dots, because you don't even have to think about it, right? And your mental capacity to process these tricks can be used to add some filler elements, right? To really dance it out, to have your hands with it, to scoop it up a little bit bigger and slow it down. You don't have to rush through anything. In fact, choreographies are more fillers, more basically where you really get to enjoy the time than actual tricks. If you put like 20 tricks into one choreography, it will seem very packed, very jammed. There's not really much flow to it. But you want to reduce it down to, it really depends here, 3, 4, maybe 5 tricks that then you combine with a little bit of floor work, a little bit of like, it really depends, like body waves, really feeling the spin, letting your body get into different shapes and moves and motions that are bringing you to the end result, which is literally making it flowy. So slow it down. Don't be afraid to breathe in your choreography, and give your flow a little bit of room and air to breathe. And for number 6, let the music dictate your speed. It's not that you have to go very slow and then go into pose and then basically stay in the pose frozen, to then come out and quickly get into another pose and then freeze up in the pose again. Let the music dictate how fast you're going, if there are accents to be made, right? If there's like beats that you can work with, maybe there's like a transition in the music that is very slow, where you have time to breathe yourself and dance it out and really take up this space. But maybe in the chorus or something, it's going really, really heavy, where you can then really slap it in and even jump from one trick to the other trick to the other trick if it works, right? So there's no rule to it that you have to stay frozen and stagnant in a pose, and to go very slow in the transitions, play with it, and literally play with the music, because music is so emotional and we're so emotionally drawn to music, and you can literally help this effect by dancing on it, dancing on the beat, dancing with the music, dancing with the lyrics even, to really express what wants to come through. Because you've chosen the song for a reason. And even if you didn't, in a class or something, you can still feel into it, right? And go into a little bit of this expressionist and modernist route here. Number 7 is about leading. Now, what often happens is that we tend to lead with our hips, or we don't really have any lead at all in our movement and in our tricks. What you can try, this is a little exercise that you can try to move around the pole, and maybe go ahead and choose 1 or 2 or 3 tricks and start to leading them with your hands, right? Your hand is basically going into a direction. And then you can try the same thing and lead with your head.
Baby, just maybe only thing you are is mine. Take me home, take me on a ride. I got a good.
And then you can try the same thing and lead with your hips.
Take me home, take me to the sky. I got a good feeling. Tell me the only thing you are is mine. I got a good feeling. I got a good feeling.
And then you can try the same thing and lead with your feet, for example. And then record it and see what kind of difference that makes. So usually we tend to lead with our feet, I would say. You know, you are taking a step and then the rest of your body comes with it. It doesn't really look that flowy, I would say, because it's just like kind of like a weird leading motion, right? Of course, there are always exceptions to be made here, but see how it looks when you lead with your hips, for example, right? Your hips lead around the pole, your hips lead the movement, and then the rest comes with it. It's sort of like you are determining a balance point within your body, and then the rest of your body, kind of like slime, if you want to see it like that, is gonna come with it, right? So it's more like a wave of movement here instead of just going like step 1, step 2, step 3. I hope that makes sense. Number 8, I already dabbled in this as well, but it's not about rushing from one trick to another trick, but it's literally about embracing those spaces in between. So instead of thinking in your head, you know, okay, I'm gonna go from this to this, and then from this, and then I need to remove my hands and all of that stuff. You want to make it flowy. You want to literally dance it out. And one thing that really, really helps is to stay connected to the pole. So instead of trying to re-grip your hands and completely taking it off, you want to actually re-grip with your hands staying on the pole and simply sliding up and down. This is going to make it so much more pretty. Or if you need to move your hands from, I don't know, your hips up to your head, you can actually keep your hands sort of like attached to your body and bring them up and down like that. Instead of just having them fly around everywhere, it's just going to break your flow. Because flow is about connecting point A to point B, right? And if your hand needs to move from one point on the pole to another point of the pole, dance it up. Make that part of the movement instead of just like a means to an end, right? I need to grip higher. No, it's a dance. Dance this movement out. Maybe you will find some way to transition into it. Try this out. Stay connected to your pole as much as possible. Number 9, avoid complete stillness. What is flow? Again, we want to connect from one point to another point. And if you become stagnant, for example, in a pose, you cut this journey off, right? And then you need to start anew. So it totally makes sense that it doesn't look completely flowy. It doesn't look connected because it literally is not. It's not a choreography or a flow. It's just one pose and a second pose and a third pose on a song, but it's not a choreography. So instead of like sitting there in your pose, doing nothing at all, is there some movement that you can bring into this routine, that you can bring into this pose? Maybe it's your hands, maybe it's a little bit of your head, maybe it's your legs that are sort of like varying the pose. Just try this out, see if you can come up with anything, with something that is maybe already connecting into another trick or into another transition, right? Because this constant movement, it doesn't have to be a lot of movement, remember, embrace slowing down. But if you dance it out and you're constantly doing something, it will look much more connected, it will look much more flowy. Beautiful. So that leads us to point number 10, and this is a little bit of an exercise because I want you to go back to your basics. Choose 2 or 3 or 4 tricks from preferably level 1. So it can be like a fireman spin, a dip spin, a hook spin, front hook, back hook, anything like that. Choose 3, 4 poses, spins, whatever. And I want you to connect them. I want you to dance them out. I want you to add some fillers into them. I want you to make the movements big. I want you to stay connected to the pole. I want you to find some transitions that maybe you haven't done before. I want you to come up with any sort of thing that is making the movement bigger and prettier and maybe faster, maybe slowing them down, maybe touching yourself, whatever it is, but stay within this flow. There's going to be no space where you are just like thinking about, oh my God, what should I do next? You are simply letting yourself move with the flow. Put on a song or 2 songs and see how this varies, and literally play with the intensity, play with the speed, play with the movement, play with the audience. Even if you don't have an audience yet, record yourself and dance as if there were 100, 200 people just watching, sort of like live stream, you know? And then see what happens. But stick to the basics because you've got the basics down. You don't need to think about them, right? You know how to do a pirouette spin. So see how this works for you. See how differently it is if you actually put this into practice. Let your mind just like stay outside of this room for a second and come and feel your body. What does it want to do? What does it feel right to you? What do you enjoy doing instead of trying to be someone else or copy somebody else's pole journey? You got this. So practice this dancing and dancing it out and filling the gaps and connecting tricks in different ways with your basic spins. Let me know how it went down below in the comments. I would love, 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 love to hear your opinions on this. If you have already tried this out, maybe you have some other tips and tricks that helped you with your pole journey. Put them down below. Other people want to hear about them. Let's make this pole journey easier for everybody, support each other. I love that you're here. I love that you brought this question to me, and I will see you very soon here on my channel. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.